All right, guys. Joining us here on Submission Radio is a UFC 194 winner, winning all 4 of his fights in 2015. His most recent victory came against Jeremy Stephens. Coming to us right from Hawaii, his first time on Submission Radio. It's a pleasure to welcome Max Holloway to the program. Max, how are you?
Good, man. How are you guys?
Very well, Max. Now, it's only a week removed from your big win over Jeremy. How did you celebrate your big win in Vegas? We hear Vegas was taken over by thousands of Irish fans post-fight.
It was crazy, man. But got some good eats. Did a little bit of gambling. But the hotel wasn't too crazy after. The hotel was pretty empty after the fight. They went crazy for like maybe an hour or 2 hours or so, and then after that, when I got down, because I got rid of the presser and stuff, it was pretty fun.
You say you did a bit of gambling. What's your game, Max? Are you blackjack? Are you poker? And did you win a lot of money?
I played, what is it? Not blackjack, but a craps. Craps is my game, man. I love rolling dice, but I was making most of my money on top of red or black on top of the roulette table, though. I'd go craps and wouldn't do too good, and then I'll just shoot a lot of money on top of red or black, and that's the way I was making most of my money.
Now, Max, the big fight between you and Jeremy was very, very close. What were your thoughts during of your performance in the fight, and did any part of you worry that Jeremy was going to get his hand raised when the decision was read out?
There's always a little scared. You don't know what you gotta be skeptical. With these MMA judges. You don't know what they're looking at sometimes, and yeah, I was a little nervous, but I thought I won the fight. I was countering, I was moving well, and I was landing. I feel like I was landing more punches, So it wasn't your normal Max Holloway fight, but it is what it is, and I'm just happy I got away with a W. I wanted to finish, but some things hold me back, and I didn't get the finish, but I was confident that I had the win, and then when they did the decision, I heard unanimous, then that made me more confident that I had the win, and I got my hand raised, and I was happy.
You say it wasn't your typical Max Holloway fight. You fought quite a lot in this past year. How is that affecting you? Are you sort of starting to feel the burn of fighting so much?
I'll fight tomorrow if I have to. But my body's taking it. I can feel it. I got a little bit injuries this fight. And I think it's time to simmer down a little. So we see what happens. But definitely I can feel the effects of 4 fights in 1 year, and I just can't wait to rest a little. There's the holidays, enjoy, and then we go from there.
Sorry to cut in there, Dennis. I was going to say, you say, simmer down a little. What kind of turnaround are you sort of looking for? How soon would you like to get back? If they offered you something early in the year, say, February, March, would that be too early for you?
Yeah, I feel like that would be too early. I was looking more towards May or June, ending May, late June, so I can start training maybe in February, for a fight. So we see what happens, though. If UFC calls, I'm not going to turn it down. I'm a fighter. That's the way I pay my bills, and I'm going to fight. It's in me.
It's interesting because you're very young. You're 24 years old, but you started fighting at a very young age as well. A lot of people look at a fighter's age to see sort of how long they have left and how their body's feeling. But because you have been fighting for such a long time, are you noticing that your body's starting to have some issues, any little injuries or nagging pains that you have to deal with?
Yeah, it just comes with the sport, though. It's like I'm 24. Thank God I'm young. But, my coaches always tease me, by the time I hit their ages when I'm like 30, 35, I'm going to have a body of a 60-year-old. They always tell me. But it is what it is. It comes with the sport, and, I take care of my body well. I go get daily, weekly massages, weekly chiropractor. I try to do cryotherapy a lot. So, I got to take care of my body to the end.
Before we talk about sort of what's next for you, we obviously got to cover the main event of UFC 194. The event saw your past opponent, Conor McGregor, beat Jose Aldo in 13 seconds. Pretty shocking conclusion to a fight built up for almost a year. What did you think of the fight? What are your thoughts on it?
It was crazy, 13 seconds, dethroned the champ. Just, landing that punch. I was in shock, I thought that was going to go and be in a war, but I've been saying, man, these 4-ounce gloves, they're totally unforgiving, man. They can change your life really quick. So I feel for the champ, though. But a reign to come down like that, a reign as his long come down that way, it's kind of sad. But it is what it is. It shakes up the division, and we see what happens.
What do you think that does for his legacy? He's been fighting for a long time. How do you think this affects Jose Aldo's legacy?
I don't think it affects it at all. He still was the number one pound for pound guy. He still did what he did. But it's sad that this sport only goes off of your last fight. And his last fight just so happened to be him getting knocked out. Which is a shitty outcome. But I think it doesn't affect it. It's just this sport period is hard. It's like when you're the man, you're the man, and then when something like this happened, and everybody's so fast to criticism. So
Mm.
so it's a sad thing.
Many people are still wondering and trying to look over the fight to see if the pressure got to Aldo. Obviously, a massive build-up, a million press conferences. What are your thoughts on the matter? Do you think it was a bit of a mental head game that got to Aldo in this fight?
No, I don't think it was a mental head game. I just think it was a a, a nice counter punch that just so happened right on the spot, and the lights turned off. It's like you know I guess Aldo looked ready. He had a game plan. He landed his left hook when he got landed on his when the left hand landed of Conor. He landed his left hook. It just so happened Conor was in the more right position to land a punch. And then you go to sleep.
Mm. You said that it sort of shakes up the division. I mean, obviously it's unfortunate when a fighter loses, especially for the fighter themselves, but do you think it's kind of an exciting thing? It's a good thing for the division because a lot of matchups now, they become a lot more fresh than they would have been in the past.
Yeah, for sure. So the division is wide open now, and we see what happens. I'm excited. I can't wait. Hopefully I can get that rematch with Conor. But there's a lot of fights for me here. There's a lot of fights left for Conor here too. So we just see what happens.
Mm. Well, speaking of potential fights for you, one of the ones that people are talking about, like Joe Rogan, is a potential fight against Jose Aldo for your next fight. I mean, how would you feel about a fight like that? Would that be something that you welcome? And also, how would you think a fight between you and Jose Aldo would go?
I think it'd be one for the ages. Jose likes to fight. I like to come and fight and stand up, and he likes stand up. So I think it'd be a fun one. I think it would sell a lot of numbers too. A lot of tickets. So we see. I'm just waiting for see what UFC wants. If that's the fight they want, and that gets me closer to a title shot, why not?
Well, there's talk of McGregor taking off some time, possibly taking, a lightweight fight. If you got an opportunity, would you want to fight, say, Frankie Edgar for a number one contender's position? We know you've been sort of calling that fight out, in your last two post-fight interviews.
I'd love to get that fight too. Frankie Edgar's another big name, and I think if I can get that name, a win over his name, that definitely helps my title shot stuff. Me and him are like the contenders right now inside the 145 division, and it's up in the air who gets the next title shot. So I'd love to fight him. Earn my way.
You mentioned that it would be a fight to avenge the BJ Penn fight, the loss that he had against Frankie previously. How important is it for you to avenge that BJ Penn loss?
It's just one for the Hawaiians. Try to get one for the Hawaiians back. It's he left a bad taste for us Hawaiians. Not 3 times. So of course, if I had a chance to try and defend it and get one back for Hawaiians, then I think that would be cool. And I think that would be great for the Hawaiians. And I think that fight will sell a lot of numbers too. The classic Hawaiians versus New Jerseyans, I guess.
Do you feel like this is almost like a continuation, like BJ Penn sort of tags out, Max Holloway tags in? And also, paint us a bit of a picture, because obviously we're all the way here in Australia. How big would a fight like that be for Hawaii?
It'll be huge. You know how I guess the biggest way to compare it is of course Ireland is bigger than Hawaii, but Conor and those guys, how they get behind them. I think a fight with Max Holloway versus Frankie Edgar, a lot of Hawaiians would get behind me a lot more. They'd be like, well, how this Hawaiian kid is fighting Frankie, hopefully he can get one back for the Hawaiians, and they jump on the train and we see what happens. It'd be big. It'd be big for Hawaii. That's why I really want it down in. They want a big fight inside of for UFC Hawaii. There's only 2 fights or 3 fights. it's going to be that Conor versus Holloway, Edgar versus Holloway, or Aldo versus Holloway. That's the only 3 fights that's big enough, I think, that we can bring down to Hawaii and do it, you know?
Do you think it's a bit overdue for the UFC to come to Hawaii?
Oh, yeah, I think it's long overdue, man. They need to hurry up and get down here.
Speaking of McGregor, he recently, in the post-fight press conference after UFC 194, spoke about his plans on being a dual champion and being in both divisions. Does it at all worry you though that if he does go up to lightweight, it might jam up your shot for the featherweight title?
We see, who knows, he's like, yeah, he's a champion, but that's just it, he's a champion in UFC. He's not the CEO or the
Mm.
or Lorenzo Fertitta, I don't think so. We see it, I don't know if they're gonna stop the whole division for him and let him go. I hear in talks of if he goes up, he gets the direct shot, but he gets stripped. So and it. I don't think he's the one. Like I don't think he's the one to say, "Oh, you can't strip me." UFC can really do whatever they want. So see what happens.
It's interesting because you say that he's not a CEO, and yet that's kind of what he says he's aiming for. He's aiming to sort of have, I don't know if you'd call it McGregor Promotions, but he wants to co-promote with the UFC, and I guess he wants to have more power and a bigger role. What do you think about that? Is it even possible? Could he take the Mayweather route and almost co-promote?
The Mayweather route. If you can promote like that, it's because of you'd be able to do that because there's another promotion doing it. There's Golden Boy Promotions is doing it, and another promotion. There's a bunch of promotions in boxing doing it, and the big ones just so happen to be Golden Boy and Mayweather. But UFC is privately owned. They own their Zuffa, they own themselves. So I don't know how that promoting business would go. I think Dana White doesn't even like people having managers. So I don't. And Lorenzo and stuff, Dana always says publicly that, managers is hard to work with sometimes. So I don't know how McGregor think he'd get away with promoting stuff, and actually doing good for the guys he would be promoting. So I don't know, man. I don't think it works.
Well, let's just talk about you guys rematching because you fought previously and you lost to Conor McGregor. How badly do you want to get a rematch with him, especially after everything that he's accomplished in the division since you guys fought initially?
I want to get back all my losses, I'm not a loser, It's like they left a bad taste in my mouth, so I want to get it back, so I can be like, look, I got one back, and so on. So we, of course I want to fight him. He got the gold belt, and at the end goal, that's my gold belt, and it just so happened I already have a loss to a guy, so that'd be even sweeter, to get to run it back again. So we see what happens, man. I would love to fight really bad, and I got 2 other losses in the UFC that I'd love to fight them too. So we just one step at a time, and I can't wait.
Yeah, with that McGregor loss, I mean, I'm guessing you probably went back and looked at the footage of the fight. How do you think it would be different if you guys had a rematch? How would you see that fight going now, all these years later?
McGregor's a different fighter from then. I'm a different fighter from then. So we see, man. It's everybody tell me I'm an excuse. Oh, I'm making an excuse or whatever. But he talked about his fucking blown ACL or whatever, which I totally do not believe, because if you had a blown ACL, you probably wouldn't be able to walk and whatever, so let alone fight. So I was tripping out that how people believe him, and people say that he was injured for the whole fight. He was only injured for the last round. He got hurt in the last 10 seconds of the last round. And then when I fought, I hurt my ankle in the first 30 seconds of the first round, and that really did mess me up. I couldn't move. I usually move out there, but if you go watch that fight, I hardly move. I stand in front of him, I move straight back, I move straight forward, and that's not what Max Holloway usually does, So it'd be a different fight, way different fight from what it was from then to now, So, and I think they know it, I think his whole team knows that it'd be a great fight, So we see what happens. I'm just waiting for the call, and hopefully it's soon.
It's interesting because the ACL is something that seems like it's plagued McGregor a little bit. He had it in your fight, and obviously against Chad Mendes, he says that he was 80% torn. You say that you don't really buy that as an excuse. What do you think? Do you think it's possible as far as the Chad Mendes fight as well that he had a partially torn ACL?
See, like partially torn, it is what it is. I understand. a partially torn one. You know, a partially torn. You can still move, but you can't move your laterally side to side. You can't move. You can't move with a partial turn because that means he's gonna buckle and stuff. You know, but like his camp and him or whatever, his fans think so. He blew like his whole ACL was blown out when he fought me, which is just blew my mind because you see this humongous athletes, NFL players blow their ACL and they're crying like like little kids when and they can't even step on it. And this guy was fighting on it for 5 minutes. You know, it was ridiculous. I don't know. I don't even. And then if you look at the timeline of when we fought and you got that blown ACL thing, whatever, it takes like 9 months, 9 to 12 months to recover, and that's just to recover. You know, that's after the surgery or whatever. That's just to recover, and then probably so long with doing the rehab and stuff. But he fought within 9 months after we fought. I think it was 9 months or 10 months, but he fought within a year. I think when he fought that whoever he fought after me. So my mind is just blown, man. I don't know what these guys coming up with. Is he injured? I swear he's injured after every fight. He comes out saying he has an injury. So we see what happens, man.
Last question on the McGregor topic. If you did get a fight with him at Croke Park in Ireland, would you take it because you'd be fighting in front of a hostile crowd and probably one of the loudest crowds in the Irish?
I don't care, man. I'll take it. I don't care where it would be. I'll take it wherever they want it. And Croke Park would be just the icing on the cake, you know. You guys would think I'm lying, but I think I have a lot of Irish fans. You know, it's the Irish is super nice to me. You know, I went there for Dublin for that fight night, and that was cool. And then this past fight, that was cool. You know, they was chanting my name when I fought, so it was pretty cool. You know, and I understand it comes with the territory. You know, when I'm up there, they're probably gonna go for their countrymen, and that's one thing I respect about their culture and their fighting, that they're so loyal to their countrymen. But at the end of the day, a fight is a fight. You know, there's only gonna have one person in there with me and a referee, so all that doesn't bother me. You know, when I fought him in Boston, it was kind of mind blowing already. You know how much fans he had there and whatever. So I think Croke Park wouldn't be too different.
Obviously, you say you've got a lot of Irish fans. Obviously, anyone who's fighting McGregor, anyone at all, would obviously be booed against McGregor. But I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, Max. But I almost feel like you obviously caught at Frankie Edgar in Hawaii. A lot of local fans there of yours. But then McGregor and Croke Park, I almost feel like you're taking it as almost like a big challenge. Like you're going in there head first to sort of have the crowd against you. Am I sort of right in saying that, or you sort of want to go in there in enemy territory to take on that big challenge?
Like I said, I want that. I want that. It's the icing on the cake. What would be a bigger win? Me fighting him at Vegas, or me fighting him at Croke Park. Of course, Croke Park is cooler. That's a stadium. That's a big. That's a stadium. It sits a lot of people. There's a lot of his fans that's gonna be there. A lot of his countrymen. So let's do it. This is fighting, man. At the end of the day, it is what it is. Everybody can yell, everybody can scream, and people can talk shit to me on top of Twitter, run their mouth or whatever. I don't care. No one takes that step in that cage. Only one other guy takes that step in the cage in there at me. And I gotta fight one guy. I'm not fighting thousands of people. I'm fighting one person, one human being. That if I was to cut him and I was to cut him, he was to cut me, we both would bleed. So it is what it is, man. Fighting is fighting.
Well, Max, to wrap up the interview, we're going to do something with you what we call the Submission Radio Tap Out Round. It's basically like a word association, a bunch of fun questions, and you answer with the first things that come to your mind, okay? So are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Well, after watching UFC 194, is Max Holloway getting a movement coach?
No.
No movement coach for Max. All right. Will Max Holloway, here's an easy one. Will Max Holloway watch the new Star Wars?
Yes.
All right, here's the tough one part of that question. Skywalker, Darth Vader, or Han Solo? Make your decision wisely, Max.
I gotta go with Skywalker.
There you go. Best advice a coach has ever given you?
Would probably be have fun.
Has Max Holloway done his Christmas shopping already, or will there be an Arnold Schwarzenegger last-minute jingle all the way situation happening?
Oh, that is funny you bring this up, because my wife was just bothering me all week to watch this movie.
Really? Jingle All the Way.
Yeah,
Who?
that's her favorite movie from when she was a kid. So she's been trying to bother me. We need to have a movie night and watch that movie. But I need to get one more person left, and that's my wife. So it's probably gonna be the Arnold Schwarzenegger way, and end up fighting someone over something.
Yeah, I don't think anyone wants to fight you in a store for like a toy. And also, you use the word bother, but when you're talking about Jingle All the Way, I don't think you can really use bother. It's more like a treat to watch that movie.
You picked your wife right, man. You picked your wife right.
Speaking of Arnie, though, give us your favorite classic Arnold Schwarzenegger movie.
Probably the Terminator. That's probably the best one to me.
Which one? 1, 2, 3, or the last one?
1, 2, 3. Probably the third one.
Third one. All right.
Now, Max, let's say Submission Radio comes down to Hawaii and you can only take us to one place. Where do you take us?
I'll take you guys to Yokohama. Beautiful beach, away from the crowded town, crowded city. It's in Waianae, all the way towards the end of the. You got on this road. It's a one way in, one way out road, and you just keep driving till the road disappears, and you guys would love it.
I'm not sure if you're taking us out or trying to kidnap us, Max. No, but in all seriousness, it sounds beautiful. Finally, Max, with New Year's coming up, give us your one New Year's resolution for 2016.
1 year resolution. Wear a gold strap in 2016.
Well, there you guys go. He's got some big plans for 2016. You can follow him on Twitter at Blessed MMA. Max Holloway, thank you so much for coming on Submission Radio. Have a great Christmas and New Year's, man.
Thank you so much, guys. You guys, happy holidays to you.